Welcome to the Eco-Washing Laundrette. I'm Yasmin Khan, your host curator of the Museum of Truth and Lies. In this section, I'm exploring museums and climate change.
Bing bong! Welcome to Margate, home of the Crab Museum and some art as well.
So here we are, Margate Station, heading towards the Crab Museum. Yeah, we're in the right direction. And so we're going to be speaking with Ned and Chase today, who are the co-directors, along with Bertie, who can't join us today. And yeah, I'm going to be asking them all about what drove them to set up this museum and why crabs. Excuse me, hi. Do you know where the Crab Museum is?
I do, yeah. If you go down there, you see the Positive Retail shop.
Yeah.
And you just keep walking. There's a little door on the left-hand side, and that just down there.
Thank you. Have you been in there?
Yeah, it's great.
Is it?
Yeah. It's not like impressive, but it's super cool.
Super cool, but not impressive.
If that makes sense. It's like you
compliment?
walk in, it's one room, and you're like, what's all the fuss?
Oh.
The more you get into it, the more
Okay.
you're like, this, and then the enthusiasm of the people there, it's really cool.
Oh, cool. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no worries.
Thank you. Bye. Here we are. We've reached the Crab Museum.
You are now entering the Crab Museum, Europe's first and only museum dedicated to the decapod, where we're crazy for crustaceans.
So already you get a kind of a vibe of their playful ethos right from the get-go. When you walk into the museum, there's a timeline to scale. It's called the Diagram of All Life on Earth. And it takes you through from 4,500 million years ago. It's a big number. All the way down to the end of the squiggly line to 500 million years ago, to the dawn of the crab and other beings. And all human history is on one little crevice of the wall. And all that modern stuff is just literally on one row. So that's an interesting statement in of itself. And then look, we have the classic motif of the crab. Here we go. So let's go up the stairs into the Crab Museum. Luscious yellow painted walls to welcome you in. And we can hear the pitter-pattering of visitors. A little cute toilet sign. Some souvenirs, definitely get those merch on the way out. And then we have into a nice, warm, cosy, the Claw Learning Studio. Oh, this is a classic. So the Claw, do you get it? The Claw, or the pun? CLAW, the Claw Learning Studio. Already, I'm feeling dizzy with excitement because I don't really know where to look. I'm like kind of filled with like different options of routes and information of things to see. So strikingly it says the C word, colonialism, on a door that says no entry, authorised crabs only. And there's a map of things that men will do instead of going to therapy. And it talks about how Britain's wealth is built on colonialism, and that how Britain invaded 1/4 of the Earth's landmass, pillaged its resources, and created inequalities that we still benefit from today. It's an example of many different human fantasies combining into something complicated, horrible, and very real. So they're not mincing their words here. And then at the end of the panel it says, needless to say, crabs and their tiny brains don't have this problem. So you get this sort of nice contrast of human and crab approach to running the world. Ah, there's Chase. Hello.
Hello, I am Chase Coley. I am one of the directors of Crab Museum.
You have found yourself in the crustacean identification and magnification station. So if you look just to the side of you here, live in the studio,
we have sort of various parts under our microscope. So while you may learn some cool stuff about crabs, especially with things here, so we can see the antennas of a crab here. Crabs have antennas, and they actually weave from the base of those antennas. So crabs weave from their faces. So you can learn some silly facts of like this. We sometimes get sand and seawater samples.
Seeing visitors engaging with the interactive exhibits reminded me of my first museum job. Over 20 years ago, I was an explainer at the Science Museum.
My name is Ned Sursat-Williams. I am a co-director at Crab Museum. People like this museum because we have a political position. They like that we are honest about who we are and what we believe in. That's a valuable thing. Don't be so afraid. Don't be a coward.
In the middle of the museum is this terrifyingly massive model of a crab claw. Ned revealed the backstory.
Like this, the giant claw, for example. It's about the size of a small to medium dog. Why isn't it real? I mean, it's a story that we tell, of course.
Oh, it's a story, so it's not...
No, it's not. No, it's not actually real.
So there's no crab that had a claw this big? We're really worried, concerned about it.
No. Weight and physics wouldn't allow a crab like this to get to such enormous size.
So have you made this model as a provocation?
We made it because it's funny. We use it as a way of introducing the idea of kind of falsehoods to children.
Oh, okay. Had you not told me that story, I would have gone thinking, oh my God, there's a crab that big.
Well, there's the story. I mean, that's the thing. So you have the object, which is like has some truth to it. Some kind of, it's a visual thing. It looks cool. It looks like a claw.
Yeah.
We've got this accompanying literature here, which I will let you digest. But it's basically talking about that there are lies in all museums, and we're just being a bit more obvious about it. And what is the difference between fact and fiction? Sure, there is scientific fact in here, but there are also stories, and what is the value in a story, and what is the value in knowing that crabs pull out their chests, for example? The idea is that it makes people think about critical thinking in a museum. This section here, where you're presented with what are such obvious, ridiculous falsehoods, I guess should make you doubt the things that the rest of it you've read. Because you don't want to just come into a museum and believe everything. Like, A, where's the fun in that? And you haven't done any science if you've just agreed with us. You haven't engaged with the material if what you're doing is just reading it and then regurgitating it backwards. You need to be like, oh, actually, do crabs really wee out of their faces? And then do a little bit of your own research. Yeah.
So I kind of fell into a trap there. I was just being a bit passive and just saw something and took it literally and thought, oh, that's the crab, it must be true because it's in the museum.
Yeah, that's basically that, yes. Because all museums tell stories and it's up to us as consumers of museums and consumers of information and consumers of stories to unpick the lie from the truth.
Ned emphatically believes combining science, politics and humour is an effective format for truth-telling. But how much does tapping into visitor emotions help to boost collective empathy?
Crabs are cool as heck, but they are just one example of things that are cool as heck. And I think, yes, there is an emotional thing, I suppose. But learning about the natural world is so sort of bewilderingly beautiful that you can't help but be emotional about it. And I guess once you've recognised that the natural world is, like, amazing, then you want to protect it naturally. And if you want to protect it, then you need to look at the things that are damaging it. You've got histories of colonialism, you've got the kind of continuation of that legacy. I think the political angle and the sort of cultural angle is the natural follow-on from looking at the natural world. I don't see how science can be apolitical.
Throughout the Crab Museum and across social media, I've noticed some strong messages against one institution in particular, the Science Museum.
We disagree with the way that the Science Museum is funded. We disagree with their ethos around, like, taking fossil fuel money. But it's the Adani one, the current Adani one, which is talking about green energy and funded by, like, one of the largest coal exporters in the world. Like, you can't talk about climate change using the master's tools. Like, you can't, if you want to actually change something, you can't do it using their money.
So just to play devil's advocate, they might say, well, if we don't take the money, we can't do the exhibitions that we want to do.
Well, we're currently standing in an entirely independent science museum, entirely run by our personal savings. Yes, you can. You can do it. We are proof that you can do it. That's not an argument.
As visitors kept pouring into the museum, we headed up to their roof terrace to continue the conversation and get some fresh air.
So I love this holistic sort of approach you have to the museum. It's this mashup of science, history, politics, comedy, and I'm really interested in your personal backstories about how your own worldviews and your heritage even have informed that approach to your professional practice.
I was born in Margate. My mum is English and my dad is Thai. How do we get to museums? Just things are cool. I suppose my granddad was probably a big influence on me. He's what would now be called autistic, but was then eccentric. So I kind of grew up with him just sort of talking about things constantly and very interesting things. And I think I am interested in things as a result of that. And I mean, my brother is the same. So my brother is the third director, Bertie, who sadly can't be with us today.
And he's not a twin.
He's not a twin, no, he's 3 years older than me. Yeah, he's
older than you?
He's older than me.
You look older than him. I mean,
Jesus Christ! Well, this interview is over!
Yeah.
No, I don't, no.
Look about
Yeah,
you.
well, no, he is an ebullient guy. Generally, though, people think I am older. Also, he's clean shaven, and I am a bearded gentleman, lightly bearded.
Which I would say he's more mature than you even. So
yeah, I am a little baby.
Yeah, you're his little baby.
Anyway, I didn't really see. I still actually have never seen much of like Southeast Asia represented in museums, other than when our cultural artifacts are labelled as art as opposed to heritage. That which defines whether something is an artifact of historical note is whether or not a white person made it. Like Indian art, African art. It's not art. I mean, it is artistic, of course, but it's also our cultural heritage. Anyway, so yeah, I suppose like being a museum and being a brown person is quite cool.
Why crabs?
Why crabs?
Well, the long answer or the short? The short answer, they're cool as heck. Ned, you can do the long answer then.
Long answer. If you were to arm a child with some information about crabs, about their behaviour, about the names of different parts of their body, about their life cycle, about what they do for food, what they do when they need a poo. If you can arm a child with that information, then they can go out into the world and experience crabs and the natural world in a more sort of grounded way. But crucially, crabs are funny and weird looking and cool as heck and ugly in many respects. They're not the most photogenic of animals. The Crab Museum exists to talk about crabs, and we shouldn't need to justify that talking about crabs is a valid thing to do.
Yeah, how dare you ask that question? yeah. Because we want to. But also, alternatively, like, it could be a museum of anything. While, we kind of use crabs to talk about as a lens of anything. Like, we are really one drunken night from it being a slug museum. Ned is very bird-pilled at the moment.
I am so bird. Yeah. I am based and bird-pilled. I am bird-maxing right now.
Again, we wanted this to be a place that was a place of education and learning, and that basically meant we could go on our tangents that we wanted to talk about as well. You can talk about anything through anything else, and you have to do that. Once you start talking about one sort of crab, you can talk about philosophy or things and science. We always say you're like 2 sentences away from an existential crisis at the museum, because again, once you talk about one thing, you lead down a few sentences and a few paths, and you can talk about existentialism and things, and what is life, what is pain, what is experience, who are we, what am I. Secretly, we say it's not really a museum about crabs, it's a museum about thinking, it's a museum about wonder, it's a museum about the world, it's a museum about yourself.
It's a museum about museums.
It's a museum about museums.
So is it a commentary on music? Like, you're critiquing the status quo of the sector, almost?
For me, especially, I was really like, okay, what have I been to in museums? Why have I not engaged with it? Why did I find these experiences bad? Why could I not connect with some of the information? Why can I not connect with some of the learning? And it is by literally going to some of them as a kid, or not being comfortable, not feeling like they're for me. It's like, oh, okay, well, how do we make this museum for that we wanted? And if we made it for ourselves and made it accessible, I mean, if you made it accessible for me, then anyone could come in, basically. So it was a critique in a way that we just wanted to do it how we wanted to. Took away the bad stuff that we didn't like about museums and included all the good stuff as well.
But we're also not museum people, so we didn't have a set of rules that, I mean, what a museum should be like. Yeah, sure, we had kind of things that we didn't want it to be like, but like we just kind of did what came naturally. And if that's a critique of the museum sector, then that's just not our fault. Like.
And we only answer to ourselves. And again, we said before, like the thing we disagree on is like, no, we should go further. Like, you should be more things. Whereas so many places have to rely on the fact that, oh no, we're going to annoy Simon or something, the trustee, and well, our boards.
Simon's always annoyed, though.
I know. So.
Do you have any trustees?
That's actually something we're in the process of kind of working on, because it's weird kind of cosplaying and setting up this like anti-museum. We have become a museum. I mean, we have our own approach and take on it, and it's kind of, I do love what we've done and made, but again, we then have to realise actually we can't maybe just always answer to ourselves. We can't just keep telling each other to really drunkenly message the Science Museum to say go fuck themselves. So that we do need kind of, and to expand the experiences of people in museums and other people as well. We do have like
we're
a
not
non-official trustee.
Yeah.
We have so many amazing people that we rely on and talk to a lot, and we're like, what are we doing about this? What should we, can we get your guidance on this?
Yeah, like a kind of guidance committee, an informal guidance committee. But like
that goes alongside our elders and our ancestors.
But like, we're under no illusions that we are perfect. Like for a start, we're not wheelchair accessible, and if you can't even reach the table, you're not at it. There's no way you can be at the table if you can't reach it. So. There are things that we want to do better, and we don't have all the answers. We have done kind of what we have done, but like we will need a board of trustees at some point, because also we're going to get like irrelevant. We're going to become irrelevant soon, and we're not going to be funny anymore.
Why do you think that?
Because men become irrelevant the older they get.
Yep.
I mean, it's also like, can't take it too seriously. It's only a crab museum, for fuck's sake.
It's only a bloody museum of crabs.
But you're doing really pithy themes like truth telling. So tell me about what got you interested in truth telling, and what's your relationship to the truth?
Oh my god!
We're going there. We're going there.
I spoke.
What is truth?
What is truth? Well, look, I spoke earlier about the
Webster's dictionary defines truth as
about the Rosetta Stone thing. It's kind of questions of authenticity. It's questions of like reality and like what makes us who we are. Why do we become the people that we are, and what are the stories that we tell ourselves in order to justify that, I guess.
And it's finding truth in things like story, narrative, opinion. Like we do have a section in the museum that talks about confused. Well, you confuse them. We've told lies or something in the museum. The thing about the Crab Museum, we're more honest liars as well. But what is truth? So there is opinion, there's story, there's fact, there's narrative. There's so much like even like folklore as well. There's so much stuff that you can learn from these things that aren't necessarily real. Like mermaids aren't real. But
what?
Oh my god! I'm sorry. We've been keeping this for.
Oh my god!
Yeah. Damn it! You found out. But mermaids aren't real. But they were used as a narrative and a learning tool and an experience. So that's the thing. Stories, narratives, opinions can be used to talk about and learn from the world. So again, it's not to say they were true, but they were true to people, and the experiences and true is finding out stuff.
But in terms of like your relationship to the truth, are all positions equally valid, like other people's hallucinations, like are you setting out to expose particular, like is there like a defining line between immutable truths and actually ideology or something else?
So there are no binary right or wrongs in the kind of world, and then there are things as well, and everything is the kind of debate in between and stuff as well. So there is this kind of grey amorphic mood, and that's not me being like devil's advocate, just to play devil's advocate. But the thing is, the thing I found is so much to do with things. There's almost like we have to be forced into binary truths, rights or wrongs. There is always reasons, caveats. There's other perspectives that you come across as well. So truth being as an ultimate truth. Maybe that's the way I see it. It's not so binary. There are perspectives and there's different ways we can approach and discuss and talk about so many things.
Things are always changing. Even scientific truth, which you can kind of generally, it's an evidence-based system, kind of think of things as being kind of immutable. But science changes. We learn more things, and I think that's the beauty of scientific truth, is that it is subject to change, in the same way that sort of cultural truths are subject to change. Like, I think the diorama we've got of Crabton on Tyne, it's a village set in 1926, so it's set during the general strike, and it's populated by crabs. We use these crabs as a way of talking about truths, talk about what happened to the suffragette movement during that period, what happened to the British Union of Fascists during that time. Like, yes, they worked with the police. The truth element of it is a changeable beast, and
It's amorphic.
Yeah, it can change. It changes quite clearly depending on the power structure that's interpreting it at the moment, or the people that are interpreting it at the moment, or the crabs that are interpreting it at the moment. Like, things are fluid and changeable, and that's just the way the world is. Even like, I'm not a physicist. There's a whole lot of unknowns in physics. And that's meant to be the most concrete thing that we have. Like, what is the nature of the universe? Sure, that's the only question worth asking.
We do talk about, again, we say we lie and stuff as well, not because we're maliciously lying, but because we say we're a museum of critical thinking. You must analyse these things as well, understanding how other people analyses it and other people's perspectives as well. People's truths are different to your truth. How we can not think of it so binary and think, and basically empathetically you can start thinking about different perspectives as well.
To not acknowledge truth as a concrete entity means that you're more receptive to things, you're open to different points of view. If everything is up for grabs and if everything is contingent on everything else, then you're in a better position with which to understand each other, because only the madman is absolutely sure.
Only the Madman.
Only the Madman is an excellent. I would recommend looking at Only the Madman is Absolutely Sure meme.
Yeah.
It's insane. It's my favourite meme ever. It's the only meme I've ever printed out.
Yeah. But the analog meme. But also, I've got to say that. But something really profound. It's about truth and stuff. Oh yeah, that was it. I can't wait to see what we get called out on later on as the things as well. There's all this kind of stuff as we kind of get older, like one thing is like once they pick something like, I can't believe you used to say that when you were like when you was like
you used to say the truth didn't exist.
Yeah, like, and what's the stuff that when are we going to get called out for? When are we going to be like and things and accept? And there's the different categories of the things, and you see kind of again, well, even previous generations, even people now, and like, oh, but maybe this has changed now, and the approach is. When I get older and someone's going like, I can't believe you used to do this or called out, hopefully that I'm a person that is like, oh yeah, actually, you're right, that was bad.
That was wrong, yeah.
From now on, I will learn from this. I'm richer for the experience. Mistakes are how we learn. Instead of doubling down, which again, a lot of interesting to do, and the same when people want to criticise, like say the museum, we're not like, oh no, you know, it's being open to be like, my truth has changed. But to admit that your truth has changed is really hard, and that proves, maybe something. So I want to be that person when I grow up, even now and when I'm older.
I think part of it comes from, we have looked into the future and seen ourselves as irrelevant. And I think we don't want to go out with like a kind of whimper. There will come a time when the hearts of men fail. I mean, it's not this day. But it will be at one day at some point in the future. And it's at that point then that we need to be able to let go of the museum and let it die.
Would you ever accept any sponsorship from a corporation?
Depends on the corporation. I wouldn't accept any sponsorship from like Elon Musk. Elon Musk is actually barred from the museum. He's not allowed in
on the ban list.
So we operate a strict no billionaires policy.
Yes.
So if you are a billionaire, you cannot come to the museum. The money can buy you pretty much everything.
Like
but it
social
cannot,
media companies, it can buy you like a ticket to space. It can buy you all sorts of things. Entry to our free science museum cannot be bought by you.
If you come and visit us, you're pretty much guaranteed to be able to talk to one of the directors.
So I'm interested in your co-leadership model, but you're also all making the content, so you're all curators as well. So tell me about your approach to those two different roles.
Curation, it was a long process of lots of sort of sticky notes and sticking them on walls and writing things down and deleting things, and
we found different strategies that worked with each other's brains. So I mean, we're still faking it till we make it.
We have no idea what we're doing.
Yeah.
You made it though. Like we're here. I mean, come on. You've captured the imagination of the public. I love this description of you working as an ecosystem together. You know, and you're riffing off each other and you're working really iteratively. How did you meet, by the way?
So at university, we kind of just had various friend circles.
What were you studying?
I studied fine art at Goldsmiths.
I studied social and cultural studies, which no longer exists.
And Bertie?
Politics and anthropology at SOAS.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is actually, if you were to look at our undergraduate degrees, some of those things creates the Crab Museum. It creates this world view. I think probably we are a product of those two universities. Actually, in some respects, like I think the way I think about the world is obviously informed by my own enormous galaxy brain, but also other people.
What is the role of humour in this? Because that's clearly integral to your brand.
Well, like I think what we say at the counter is that everybody learns better when they're laughing and smiling, and yes, that is absolutely true. But like, humour is one of the most valuable things that we have as humans for talking about things that are difficult. The world that we live in is a terrifying place, right? And it's very difficult to talk about things that are scary, talk about things that are sad. Like, if you can somehow use humour as a way of breaking down barriers and of allowing British people to talk about their emotions, then great. You need to be able to laugh about things, and why can't you laugh about science? I know lots of people do. There's a whole burgeoning, excellent community of science-based comedians, and they're all very funny. Humour is just one of many tricks that is available to us as humans in a way that we can talk about things. Like jokes lighten the mood, and they allow us to... They connect us with each other, and they're a deeply human thing. Yeah, why do museums have to be boring and why can't they be funny?
It's a tool for speaking truth to power, which you're doing throughout your exhibits.
So. I mean, it is a means by which we can,
We're basically only honestly being ourselves, and that is things. We're not trying to be this thing.
What's the biggest message you want visitors to take away when they leave?
Stay awesome.
Crabs are cool as heck, and that the world is full of astoundingly wonderful things if we care to stop and look at them. And come in here and learn about crabs, but it's the interconnectedness of all things in the universe. Be that the natural world, is that like space. Space is cool, but so are our own emotions and our own ways of remembering things. These are like it's a kind of be critical of things and be open-minded. And if it takes a crab to encourage you to be open-minded, then sure, then crabs, fine, we'll use crabs. But like, go out there, have a nice time in your life, and be curious about things, and continue being an idiot.
Yeah, and even that's the thing is like, even if you don't get like, we have obviously there's so many kind of like layers or like, deeper meaning
like
to this, like an onion. That when you leave again, that you're not like, if people come in and like, oh, this was a bit too highbrow of it. If you just wanted to come and you learn a little fact about crab, we have completed our goal. If you come and learn some more critique about like the monarchy and the kind of colonialism and the kind of like the opium wars, great. There is no anything you ever learn here. There's no hierarchy for me. Like that really deep, profound, important information is not so hierarchically better than like some kid left and learned
that crabs have got 10 legs.
I actually do want to get back to your decolonial approach because you have a strong ethos of like social justice that permeates everything in what you're doing. You clearly have a conscience about it. So this whole thing about museums aren't neutral. You're clearly not neutral, but
no museum is.
No museum is.
Yeah, that's
right?
the thing. We're honest. We're just more honest about it.
But your lived experience has really impacted the way that you have set this up, and so. It's its strength, is what I'm saying. It's great, but which is a privilege you have that other museums don't have, in a sense that they're constrained by the institutional bureaucracy.
Yeah, so it's much easier to start from nothing than it is to retrospectively try to get rid of all the guns from your museum. And if you're burdened with a collection that's many millions of objects big, then that's a difficult job. And I mean, hats off to museums that are trying to do it. The museum exists as a waste disposal unit for bad ideas in society. And things that we can take things that we don't like in the world, put them in a museum until we're comfortable with them, and then we can forget about them. Like, you could do that with Colston's statue. You could tear it down and throw it in the sea. That's fine. Then you can also put it in a museum. And in the process of museuming a thing, we can collectively, as a society, put things behind us and examine them in a way that is okay. And it's not like it's okay to be wrong. It's okay to say, yes, ancestors, you suck. Not all of our ancestors suck. Some of our ancestors are great. Our ancestors
did some really good things.
Yeah, like they are indeed the reason that we are here today. But they also made some pretty big errors. And we're some of the only places that are saying certain things. Like the amount of Chinese visitors that have come in and have gone into our smaller room and then come straight up and be like, thank you for talking about the Opium Wars. Nobody talks about the Opium Wars. Yeah. Even in the Manchester Museum. I mean, shout out the Manchester Museum. You could have gone harder in your Opium Wars section. You could have gone harder. But why aren't we talking about these things? We're not talking about them because they make us feel icky and but to be honest, deal with it. We can feel icky, we can hack it. If we want to move on, we need to start by accepting where we're at and talking about things. And a new museum has to be decolonial, and it has to at least fucking try. Yeah. Just don't be a meanie.
Yeah.
Could you share some examples of exhibits in other museums that you feel either reveal or conceal the truth?
In the National Army Museum, excellent pen. It's green, like they're soldiers, untrained and poorly equipped. But there is a huge wall of... shout out the British Army. There is a huge wall of conflicts that Britain has been involved with. It's a huge wall over the many centuries. I was like, well, I think there are some here that are missing. Very luckily, over comes a volunteer, very, very incredibly knowledgeable volunteer. And I said, what about that one? What about that one? What about that one? What about ongoing things? What about... And it's like, we call those contract conflicts. And we don't include contract conflicts on this. This is only when Britain officially was at war with these places. So we don't include the fact that we train Bahrainian pilots.
Yes.
So
war with a small W.
War with a tiny little w. So that is an example, I think, of an omission of quite important information, actually.
Ding dong! Thank you for visiting the Crab Museum. Have a great day. Stay classy.
Thanks for visiting the Museum of Truth and Lies. Join me on the next gallery tour of this limited edition series from wherever you get your podcasts. You can find out about the making of this museum in the online Museen, an artist-illustrated magazine packed with playful tools and games, lovingly co-created with Sold Out Publishing. Tell us your thoughts and share your museum photos using the hashtag MuseumTruthLies.